My name is Angela and my son Sam is 14 years old and he's just had a bone marrow transplant at Great Ormond Street Hospital following a long illness with CGD. When he was born, he was actually covered in pustules from head to toe, almost looked like a form of chicken pox or mild, or sort of, well, I'd say quite heavy acne actually. And we had to bath him in a Cedal bath soap, the old sort of coal tar antiseptic soap. The nurses hadn't seen anything like it really. They thought it might have been an allergy. From birth to, I'd say, 1.5 to 2, he did have a few things which I took him to the doctors for, namely he was quite lethargic during the day. He slept a lot as a baby. He woke up crying in the mornings, which is another thing I always remember. Instead of waking up and gurgling, he obviously used to wake up almost as if he was in pain, but obviously too young to tell me. Glands in his neck often coming up quite a lot. And the doctor in the local hospital just put it down to a bit of gland trouble, maybe teething. Sam was about 3 years old when we came back from holiday in Spain and his large chest vein came up, went to the local hospital, had the chest x-ray. The radiologists were very serious after they did the chest x-ray, and I remember thinking, oh, something's up here. Within half an hour we had doctors and consultants looking at the scans, obviously extremely worried, and from then they just said, well, I'm really sorry, there's something going on in his chest, there's a mediastinal mass, we'll have to send you straight up to Great Ormond Street Hospital by ambulance. I was quite relieved when CGD was actually finally diagnosed, because we were on a bit of a roller coaster onto what was actually wrong with him. How are we going to cope? You know, what's the programme? What's the management? How do we cure our son of this, you know, really rare condition? Normally CGD, once it's diagnosed, a lot of parents do actually have a bone marrow transplant a lot younger. Because he then was well after a period of time on drugs, we wanted to wait a little bit longer. We felt he was too young to go through a bone marrow transplant, and also we wanted the medical science maybe to develop a little bit further. It's very personal things, and the doctors and consultants always said, you decide as a family what you want to do and how you feel is best for your child. So Sam was 13 when we went for a routine 6-monthly echo scan and blood test at Great Ormond Street Hospital. He did have a sort of mediastinal mass and also an infection just touching the vertebrae in the back of his neck, which indicated things were breaking through the drugs he was on. It was taken out of our hands really. We had to go through and have a full bone marrow transplant. Luckily we did have a donor that was found quite quickly. It was a 10-10 match. This was February time 2011 last year, and we went into Great Ormond Street in December. You have to literally hand over your trust to the doctors and the nurses because it is a very complex treatment. The protocol is very tight. They know exactly what's going to happen on day 1, day 5, day 10, day 16. So in some ways you have to almost hand your trust over and let them control all the drugs, all the IVs, the chemo. I think he was worried about the boredom factor of games and things he could bring in, and could he bring his Xbox in. So that was sorted out all for him. And also I think he was worried about the pain. Will you be able to sort out all the pain and give me enough drugs to not make things hurt too much? Chemotherapy was quite hard within the bone marrow transplant. They really are quite poorly and they feel really sicky, they lose a lot of weight. The mouth gets very sore with ulcers. The children do get mucositis in the mouth, which can actually run through the whole digestive tract. But the nurses are fantastic. There's always something soothing and helpful for the children, and the dietitians are very good as well, giving you things like ice creams and lollipops that they are allowed to eat to soothe, you know, obviously the mouth ulcers and the sickness. It is very distressing. It can be very upsetting. You're very tired, so your emotions are, you know, are running pretty low a lot of the time. But generally I think you have to stay positive. You have to think, you know, in the best place with the best consultants, the best nurses, and the latest technologies. Sam is now 7 months on from his bone marrow transplant. Blood tests are looking a lot better than they have been. Lymphocytes and neutrophils looking better. His immune system's obviously gently but quietly growing, getting stronger. And the MRI scans are fantastic, looking a lot better than they have been. Because obviously with CGD, he was missing one part of his immune system, so that will be fully corrected, and he can hopefully go on to live a healthy and normal life.